the level of interference by the Obama's government was very overwhelming. It's not as if I couldn't have won the election even with that. But if, by my own thinking, and also the way some other people look at it, they go outside the normal diplomatic relationship, then it should be mentioned. Sending that person to Nigeria at the eve of election, after Obama even issued a statement directing Nigerians to vote for the next chapter, that tells you something. And we should not sweep this things under the carpet. If a foreign country, whether African country or even America or any other country, interferes with our own elections, we should mention it. Immediately the Chibok issue came up, we expect Nigerians to be concerned. How do we get these girls out? Within a couple of days, we saw people going to the US would bring back our girls' placards. How? Why? And of course, the Mrs. Obama received one of those placards. I cannot take responsibility for the abduction. I don't control Boko Haram. They are criminals. But as a president, of course, you know, it's not the president that go to the field. You have security and intelligence officers that do the work. Let me admit that, yes, maybe they do their best, but their best was not good enough for us to recover the girls. That does not mean that I'm trying to remove myself from any blame. Yes, I may not be blamed for the action, but I could be blamed that my security and intelligence system are not strong enough to be able to rescue the girls.
Barrister, you had everything right, clearly.
Yes.
All right.
The interview
Yes.
has been out there for a long time.
Yeah. Sorry?
The interview has been out there for quite some time.
Okay. Yes. There's an old interview, actually. But the thing, for I don't know, for whatever reason, it just started trending because I know of that interview. I think I watched it years ago when it out. But I don't know, for whatever reason, the thing just started trending. Somebody, and I don't know, maybe one popular person posted it and the thing just started for the past 24 hours or 48 hours, it's been trending. And Barrister, you and I don't know, that was Goodluck Jonathan, the immediate the former president of Nigeria. I don't know why he, at that point, it was that when he granted this interview, it was long after the election, sort of. So everything had died down and whatever. I don't even know why he didn't. If it were someone else, honestly, while in power, he would have called America, he would have called their bluff. Anyway, it's not surprising to me. You and I know that, although we're happy because one of you and I think we believe that Jonathan needed to be okay. No, you prefer that. You prefer Jonathan than Buhari, right? I know you criticize Buhari. You never wanted Buhari. You rather.
Yes, I never wanted Buhari even for 1 minute as president.
Yeah, so
But I had a caveat in terms of Jonathan. I believe we argued in my office then.
Yes.
I said if by the time of the election, Jonathan had not resolved the Chibok gas issue, I will not support him. It is a failure of government. That was the caveat I had. I said if by the time of the election, he had failed to resolve the Chibok gas issue, I will not support him.
All right. Yeah, so obviously you and I agree. I remember we had that common agreement that Jonathan was very, very weak. And me, in my own opinion, I consider him, okay, apart from Shehu Shagari, I don't even know which one is even weaker. Apart from Shehu, okay, put Shehu Shagari aside. Excuse me. I consider Jonathan as the weakest president we've ever produced. That is just it. That man is just too weak for my, he was too weak for my liking. And first, when this whole thing happened, we all knew quite right. I remember we talked about this, that obviously US actually interfered in that election. They influenced the election. There was no doubt about that. Obama influenced the election. then honestly, I wasn't happy that US did that, but at the same time, I actually wanted. I remember I supported Buhari, unfortunately, and we wanted Jonathan out because the corruption was just too much. That was what we thought. Jonathan's corruption, unfortunately, that of Buhari became made Jonathan's corruption situation to be even a child's play. But again, I don't know why he said that. He waited until he left he left power, and long after he left power, he granted that interview and started spilling nonsense. Where was he? Why didn't he voice that position against the US? Then?
I agree with you 100% that Jonathan was the weakest president ever, and for a country like Nigeria, he is not suitable to be a leader. But as at that time, in comparison to the person who was his main challenger, I believe that as between him and Buhari, knowing Buhari's antecedent then, knowing his lack of knowledge, knowing his lack of ability in any way, whether as a general or in any other way, I would have preferred Jonathan to continue for the next 4 years. But the incidents of that Chibok guys touched me to my bones. I have daughters. If the state faced its children who were brutally adopted and assaulted and kidnapped and taken away, if the state failed the weakest among its population, the government has no business being there. I strongly felt that if by the time of the election he had not sorted out, the government has a lot of machinery to approach those issues.
Yeah.
It is the will, the lack of will.
Didn't you hear even he indicted himself. He didn't know that he indicted himself by saying that
Exactly.
the US take over the whole whatever, and he didn't even know what was going on anymore.
It was the lack of will, the lack of decisiveness that made that problem to protract. If he had sat and given marching orders to his generals, to his DSS and the police, those guys would have been brought back. But whatever the report they brought to him, the army or the police or the DSS, he will just accept it. He had no capacity to interrogate the reports that he was getting. And for you as a president, imagine the Secretary of State, John Kerry, he camped himself in Nigeria, shuttling between Abuja and Lagos.
Honestly.
A week before the election. And to imagine that for the past 2 years before that election, what a lot of people didn't know is that the APC, Buhari's team, Obama had loaned out his PR team in the US.
They paid, I think about $2 million or so. The Nigeria paid for this consultant. Yes, for the consultant.
For Buhari. And that there was an explosion of social media. I used to talk about it in my office. For the first time in our history, elections are being done on social media. Everywhere on social media. That was the first time you see that level of social media activity. And it was done by Obama's PR team. We all knew Mrs. Clinton. There's a time he spoke, he said there's no leader in Nigeria. Nigeria has no leader. And Jonathan was a sitting president. Then you allowed the Secretary of State to come and stay here 1 week shortly between Lagos and Abuja.
That is to tell you how weak Jonathan was.
We are saying the same thing. We are saying the same thing.
Honestly.
No leader like that ought to rule a complex country like Nigeria.
Oh my God.
He was too weak, and his excuse for the weakness is that he said he didn't want blood to be shed.
That was stupidity.
Now, that can never be an excuse.
Honestly.
For allowing things to degenerate to an unreasonable level. It was known that the APC had brought in mercenaries, Fulani herdsmen, and others, and positioned them around the country that if they do not get power, there will be bloodshed, there will be war. Now that scared him. I'm sure he received the security report. That scared him to his bones. And when you now see...
listen, sorry to cut you short. It scared him to his bro, but even his people, they were ready to fight.
That's what I'm saying.
His cabinet, they were ready to fight.
When he saw the U.S. orchestrating his downfall,
he chickened out.
He just resigned to his fate. That is not the hallmark of a great leader.
Honestly, that man.
Anyway,
in fact, I remember then I really hated Jonathan Leb because he was naturally I hate weak people naturally. I have phobia for weak people.
If we have to be honest, if you have to be convinced of the path you are following as the genuine and true path, then you have to give possibility of bloodshed. There's no other way.
Of course. That's what I keep telling people. I say, look,
not that you want it, but you are doing the right thing. That could have been you should be ready to face it.
Correct. That could have been a necessary evil.
Because if we all fear the hooligans, if hooligans come up, armed robbers come up and take over the streets, and we all retreat into our houses.
And now
we have surrendered our lives.
Okay, let me read what Aisha Yusuf now. I think Yusuf. You know Aisha Yusuf, right?
Of course.
So let me read what she wrote. In fact, she just finished this, Jonathan. That's just it. Let me read what she wrote. Good luck, Ebele Jonathan was so clueless that he couldn't stand for the party after he lost the election. And that is just the truth. A very selfish and self-centered leader who does not know how to fight for anyone. That is the truth. All he knows how to do is crawl around strong people. That was how he abandoned the masses that voted for him to suck up to the elite that never wanted him. A weakling, true and true. That is just the reality.
That statement is 100% correct.
Honestly, the man is so selfish. It was just about him.
In the context of Nigeria, the only office he can hold is the councillor of the local government.
Honestly, that man is the most unpatriotic Nigerian president we've ever encountered. Because everything he did was based on selfishness. Honestly, selfishness.
If I were to rate him and give him position of power, it will not go beyond a councillor in the local government.
Honestly, that man was a nightmare. Even though then I was happy Buhari came because I supported Buhari. I didn't know, but if I had known that Buhari would be what he became, I couldn't have. Probably, of course, I couldn't have supported him. But even when Jonathan, I remember, even though I wanted him out, when he conceded, I felt this. That was when even that concession was. It made me to even hate him more because I just saw weakness. Could you have the nations, the moment there is an interference, an international interference, especially that of when that election happened, 2015 election, it was very obvious, very glaring. US didn't even hide it. It was glaring. So that could have been an excuse for you to hold on to power and call everyone's bluff.
Look, you have to understand that concession speech was not the day he conceded. He had given up long ago. He had given up the presidency long ago. That was the culmination of his surrender in making that speech. He had given up since when he saw the array of forces against him from the APC, from the American government and Western government. He gave up.
That man was just was a coward. I just hate cowards, honestly. That was unpatriotic. You just couldn't fight for Nigeria.
Sometimes I have to say, like the poet said, to have peace, we must have war. So sometimes
that's my point.
The issue of violence or bloodshed will become a necessity.
Yes. I'm glad you and I are on the same page on this. Honestly, that's what I keep telling people. I say, look, So when it comes to power, you must be ready to fight. You must be ready to shed blood. Sometimes necessary blood, shedding of blood, not because you want it, not because you derive pleasure in shedding blood, but because it's a necessary evil that you really need to surmount to get to an expected end.
Particularly that you are doing the right thing, doing the right act.
That's the point. Honestly, it is so sad, honestly.